Clarenville Area Chamber of Commerce All Candidates Debate. We want to start on time because we've got a lot of questions for the candidates. I'm Joe Twan, I'm the President of the Clarenville Area Chamber of Commerce. The moderator for this evening's debate is Barbara Dean Simmons. She's a journalist with over 30 years, and she's currently managing editor for the Saltwater Network Group of community newspapers in Atlantic Canada, which includes the packet here in Clarenville. Our timekeeper this evening is Laura Lee Albany, and the questions will be coming from Yvette Mahaney and myself, Joe Twan. So at this time, I'd ask the candidates to come out and take their positions. Yours? No? Okay.
Welcome, everybody. Before we start the debate, I'd like to offer you some insight into the process that went into preparation. The Chamber of Commerce reached out to its members and special interest groups for questions. Of the questions proposed, 12 were chosen for tonight's debate. They range from questions on local issues to questions on provincial matters that impact local people. To determine the order of candidates for opening and closing remarks, names were chosen by random draw, from my cardboard box specifically. This draw was witnessed by the Chamber President and Executive Director. And the order in which candidates would respond to questions and the pairing of debaters was determined by the Chamber based on random draw and standard setup for previous debates. Finally, once the order of debaters was chosen, the sequence of questions to be asked was also determined by a random draw. Each candidate will get 2 minutes to make opening comments, and each will get 3 minutes at the end of the debate for concluding comments. For the debate portion of the evening, there are strict time limits to ensure all candidates have an opportunity to respond to questions, provide rebuttals, and debate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to a question. Their opponent will have 2 minutes to rebut, and then they will both have 1 minute to debate. The timekeeper will keep time, and mics will be turned off if candidates do not adhere to the time limits. There are also rules for the audience. No placards or banners, please. No posting or distribution of political materials at this debate site, and above all, no heckling. Anyone who does not respect these rules will be asked to leave. So I want to begin with, we'll start with the biographies of the candidates. And again, these were chosen to be read in random order. And the biographies were provided and submitted by the candidates, and the Chamber has not edited them in any way. The first biography is Liberal candidate Colin Holloway. Colin was elected to the 48th General Assembly as the member of the Terra District on November 30th, 2015. In December 2015, Colin was appointed Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Tourism, Culture, Industry and Innovation. In August 2017, he was appointed as Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Environment. While in this role, he represented Newfoundland and Labrador at the FPT Ministers of Agricultural Policy Framework discussions in Calgary, Alberta, as well as the Federal, Provincial, Territorial Ministers of Environment discussions on climate change in Vancouver, British Columbia. Colin holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from Memorial University of Newfoundland. He is an accredited partnership broker and has a certificate in applied behavioral analysis. Prior to being elected to political office, Colin worked in the public service for more than 26 years. Early in his career, Colin worked with children with developmental disabilities as a child management specialist before moving on to the Rural Secretariat and the Office of Public Engagement. Colin has extensive experience in socio-economic development, partnership development, and public policy, and he has been a guest presenter at national and international conferences on homelessness, rural economic development, government-community partnerships, and public engagement. In 2014, he was nominated for a Public Service Award of Excellence. Colin has been a longtime volunteer in the Claremont area, which has included the Vista School Board, Neighborhood of Friends Family Resource Center, Habitat for Humanity, Youth Tube Youth Center, and the SPCA. In 2008, Colin was recognized as Volunteer of the Year for the town of Clarenville. In 2018, he received the 150 Faces of Clarenville Recognition Award. Since being elected as the MHA for the Terra district, Colin has been instrumental in the establishment of a new farming market at Clarenville Inn and has been a tireless advocate for residents of the Clarenville area. The next biography is for Newfoundland and Labrador Alliance Party candidate Barry Moores. Barry was born in Clarenville, son of Milton and Stella Moores of Tilley's Road. His mom taught school from 1946 to 1973, and his father, who served in Newfoundland's 59th Heavy Artillery Regiment, sold insurance and was a well-known hunter and fisherman, and twice president of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 27. Barry has an honors degree in journalism from King's College, started his career with newspapers in central Newfoundland, and moving on to freelance writing and research. He is a former board member of the Writers Alliance of Newfoundland and Labrador, taught journalism at the college in Stephenville, and has 12 entries in the Provincial Encyclopedia. Natural Media, the agency he co-founded in Clarenville in 1994, had 6 full-time employees and a range of products that included leading-edge tourism promotions and the College of the North Atlantic's first distributed learning website. Since retiring from commercial media, Barry has been a tireless advocate for disability rights. He is a 20-year associate member of the Royal Canadian Legion and received a Clarenville 150 award. Progressive Conservative candidate Lloyd Parrott. Lloyd was raised in Wabush, Labrador, and immediately upon completion of high school became a member of the Canadian Armed Forces. It was there that he had a successful career that spanned 21 years. Upon his retirement in 2011, Lloyd and his family moved to Clarenville. Lloyd is currently a councillor with the town of Clarenville, sits on the board of directors for White Hills as the vice chair. He is a past member of the Executive Council on the board of directors for the Construction Labor Relations Association of Newfoundland and Labrador, and he served on the board of directors for the Hebron project. He has been deeply involved in labor relations throughout the province and sits as a professional management trustee for a health, welfare, and pension fund. Lloyd takes an active role in fundraising for multiple charities throughout the province, and most notably, he has done outreach work with amputees throughout the province. He is proud of his affiliation with Power to Hope, which he continues to do ongoing work with on many levels. At this time, I'll ask the candidates to provide 2 minutes of opening remarks, and by random draw, the first candidate is Barry Moores.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation to this debate. And, thank you for attending to the representatives from the other parties. Thank you again. The province can no longer afford the political party system. It is the reason I'm asking for your vote in Terra District for the Newfoundland and Labrador Alliance during this election. The Newfoundland Alliance is a protest vote with a point. It is a protest vote with a plan. Every vote for the Alliance is one step closer to a government of independent representatives, which allows citizens to be represented without the influence of political parties and political power. Terra Nova District can no longer afford a political party system. Overspending by administration after administration, $5 billion in debt, trumped by $7 billion. A cycle of promise and lie, a cycle of hope and despair. The failed decisions of Muskrat Falls were in large part, as we know, fostered by the executive power of the Premier's office, and the realities that MHAs have to take orders from the top or fear expulsion from Cabinet or caucus. I've spoken strongly against the failures of the amalgamated health board system here, foisted on us by a previous administration. I'm not trying to persuade anybody that I understand the common man, because I am the common man. Many of the people coming to you at this election have never had the joy of a welfare Christmas, and I have seldom had the joy of any other kinds. Governments are keeping themselves afloat by wholesale cuts, by levies and taxes, and bait and switch. As the co-founder of a successful, modern-thinking small business in Clarenville in the 90s, I looked to smarter...
10 seconds to conclude, Mr. Morris.
Pardon?
10 seconds to conclude.
Cost-effective solutions, as will be expected in the future. I have a lifetime of study and engagement. Thank you.
The next candidate to present 2 minutes, and again by order of random draw, is Lloyd Parrott.
Thank you. I'd like to start by thanking the Clarenville Area Chamber of Commerce for hosting this debate. It's my belief that we're all better served by having an open dialogue and presenting our platforms to the voters of the Terra Nova District. Mr. Morris, Mr. Holloway, attendees, viewers on Facebook Live, thank you for taking the time to come out tonight in search of the best candidate for both Terra Nova District and the province. It is my honor to be here tonight as your candidate for the Progressive Conservative Party of Newfoundland and Labrador. The time of sitting and waiting for Newfoundland to become a better place is long gone. Gone are the days of giving away our resources and shipping our people to other provinces to work. We live in a district that has been overlooked for 4 years, and we cannot afford another 4 of the same. If you ask yourself if our district is better today than it was 4 years ago, the answer is quite simple: no. I'm running to represent the people of Terra Nova, and I'm running to represent the people of this province. I'm running to represent our seniors and our children. They certainly deserve better. We all deserve better. I'm here today to tell you that I believe that I could be the start of a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next presenter is Liberal candidate Colin Holloway.
Good evening, Mr. Moore, Mr. Herrick, ladies and gentlemen. Since 2015, it has been my privilege to represent the Terra Nova District as a member of the House of Assembly. Throughout these past 3.5 years, I, along with my assistant, Joanne Freeman, have worked hard to advance the issues and concerns that have been brought to our attention. Our approach has always been to advocate on your behalf with the aim of finding the best possible solution to the things that matter most to you and your community. I believe that we have accomplished this task with openness, honesty, and integrity. The needs of my constituents have been of paramount importance to our work. To help put things into perspective, investments have been made to important infrastructure, such as local roads, water and sewer projects, fire halls, fire equipment, and rescue vehicles, bridges, community centers and recreational facilities, school gymnasiums and playgrounds. Strategic investments have also been made in new initiatives like the Farm Market, the Glovertown Town Centre, the Petley Marina, and the Eastport Peninsula Inter-Community Walking Trail Network. My approach has been to listen well, to work collaboratively with municipal leaders and community organizations, and to provide leadership within the district and at the caucus table. As a district, we have been fortunate to secure more than $44 million to support growth and prosperity in most, if not all, of the 38 communities and its more than 14,000 residents. All of these things have been possible because we have worked together. While this province has faced unprecedented debt, our efforts have produced results: a more stable economy, healthier outcomes for our residents, and a brighter future for all. On May 16th, I humbly ask for your vote so that we can continue this important work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to the question part of the debate. The first question will go to Colin Holloway, and Lloyd Parrott will provide rebuttal. And Yvette has the first question.
Given the cost of transportation of our food supplies to the island and the limited affordability and healthy food choices of our seniors, choices which can lead to obesity and other health issues, how would you advocate for more affordable and healthy food choices?
Yeah, I certainly agree that the cost to provide food in this province is a paramount of concern, an issue. We all know that any day that the ferry doesn't run coming across the Gulf, within a couple of days our shelves are empty. One of the things that I've been very proud to support is agricultural development in this province. We have seen now that through allocation of Crown land, that some 64,000 hectares of land have been made available to new entrants into the agricultural industry, to new farmers. We're also encouraging people into backyard farming and community gardens. All those things will certainly support people being more sustainable in their food production. Because we just got to think about, you know, where we've come from as a province. Many of us, I myself, grew up in a household where we grew vegetables in the backyard. My neighbors did the same thing. We all had chickens. And those were all about providing food for ourselves. So I've been encouraging, and I've spoken many times, about agricultural development. I certainly have helped a lot of new entrants into the agricultural industry have access to Crown lands and helping them gain access to important funding so that they can start those initiatives, whether it's beef, cattle industry, growing berries, you know, things of that nature that are so important so that we are healthy as a population.
Thank you. And Mr. Parrott, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Yeah, so it's critical that we find the ability to grow some vegetables and produce food here in Newfoundland. But, you know, in the last 4 years, we've seen a 16-cent gas tax levy that certainly doesn't help us with our ability to buy things when we're shipping things to the island. That certainly increased the cost and make it out of reach for our senior citizens and regular families every day. Also, you need to consider the ferry. I mean, we have a ferry that doesn't always run, but the cost is really out of reach for a lot of people for travel and for shipping. When we ship our food from Port Bass all the way to St. John before it gets redistributed, I think we need to develop a strategy on how to get food into centres a little better than that. And, you know, I also think that at the end of the day, the cost of getting things here needs to be resolved, and part of that is a benefit or some kind of a reduction in the ferry cost.
Thank you. You both have 1 minute to debate.
Yeah, so in terms of, you know, tax on gas, we know that in January, the last 4.5 cents came on. We have taken steps after 2016 to reduce the taxes on gas, and as part of our commitment, we said that by January 2019 that those taxes will be up. So, you know, we are taking steps to reduce the costs so that goods that are need to be transported across this province, that they are not passed on to the consumers. And that's a responsibility, I think, of any government, is to look at that.
I'll remind Mr. Holloway that in 2015 they promised no new taxes, and the gas tax went on in the very first budget. So it really, what's going to happen in 2019 is yet to be seen.
Well, I'll also remind Mr. Parrott that in 2015, December, when we got the
10
books,
seconds to conclude.
$2.7 billion deficit that nobody told the people of this province.
$4.3 million extra spent.
Time is up. The second question will be asked by Joe. Barry Morris will be the respondent, will answer the question, and Colin Holloway will provide rebuttal.
The Whitehills Ski Resort is an important recreational and economic entity, yet it receives no direct financial support from the provincial government. Would you advocate for provincial funding to support the facility?
Well, my background in White Hills was on the committee there in 2000 to actually save it from the disaster that it had become. One of the reasons it had become a disaster, I remember being at a chamber meeting where it was decided to give it to the Hickmans. And I said, don't give it to the Hickmans because they'll sell it quietly. and they sold the pot. So I think that one of the things that I've been most happy to be involved in is a larger community involvement. So I think that us getting together on more fronts than just cap in hand is how we get this done. Because we have to ramp this stuff up, and we've been talking about ramping up White Hills as a general purpose thing for a lot of years, and I don't think we should take our eyes off the prize on that, actually.
Mr. Holloway, to respond.
Yeah, just put some things into perspective, and I know this issue's come up, a few times in the past couple of years. So the city of White Hills has had no investment. Actually, White Hills has gotten, has received about $1 million in investment from the provincial government. Just recently, in terms of the Nordic Ski Club, they've also had an investment, because they're able to buy some skis and snowshoes and provide that recreational opportunity to the residents of this area and those who come and utilize the facility. The other thing that's happening right now is we're working with a developer to provide some different opportunities so that White Hills can diversify, similar to what's been happening in Marble Mountain. So, we know that there has to be a different perspective and different approach to White Hills, but we all want to see it be sustainable.
Thank you. The time starts for 1 minute for debate.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't too much negative I can say about how I feel about White Hills. I do go back to the fact that it was a community initiative that saved its butt in 2000, and I think that gives us a really good idea about what can be achieved there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Barry. It's a great facility. It brings a lot of people into the community at the hotels and at food establishments, and but it's not a crown corporation that belongs to government, and we need to diversify what's happening at the Hill in order to make it sustainable.
We'll move on to the next question. Yvette has the next question for Colin Holloway, and Lloyd Parrott will respond.
Local citizens have indicated the need for a public swimming pool/fitness facility for this region. Clarenville is one of the only regional hubs in this province that currently does not have such a facility. Would you support government funding to provide such a facility for this area?
So it's really unfortunate that the wave burned down, and I can remember getting pictures at 10 o'clock on that Saturday night. I actually couldn't believe it when someone sent me the pictures. And to see that it was a loss of that pool. I think one of the things that's happened because of it became an impetus for me to go back to government and to say that Clarenville as a whole doesn't have the capability to fight fires of that nature. And so recently, the town of Clarenville was approved for a new fire ladder truck, which was a request that they had put in as a result of the wave pool burning down. It is my understanding, and I've talked to the local contractor, that the motel will be rebuilt. It's going to start in about 2 weeks' time. The pool, I understand, is still intact, so I think that facility will be back as an asset in this community again.
Mr. Parrott, the time begins to respond.
The answer is yes. I would support it 100%. Secondly, I'd like to remind everyone here that government has shut down all the tenders, and the tender for the fire truck has not been awarded. It's on hold. So there's another promise that there may be a fire truck, but currently there is no fire truck. And the Wave is a private enterprise, much the same as Mr. Holloway just reminded us about White Hills. So it is very unfortunate that it burnt down. But if you do look to places like Gander and on the Northern Peninsula, they do have government-funded pools, and I think Clarenville are the same.
And there will be 1 minute to debate.
Yeah, so just to put it into perspective, a new pool will cost between $10 and $14 million. And I think Mr. Parrott's been on council when he's on council where he's had those figures presented. And it's my understanding, sir, that the council has decided not to go to the provincial government looking for those funds.
Because of the past history of not getting funding for the fire department and other essential services around Clarenville, we did decide to do that, absolutely.
Okay, we'll move on to question 4, posed by Joe. Lloyd Parrott will answer. Barry Morris will provide rebuttal.
It has been said that Newfoundland does not have a revenue problem, but a spending problem. Yet our debt continues to increase each year. What do you think the province should do to reduce government spending and that debt quickly and immediately?
So the first thing I'll say is that the economy is not driven by royalties, so we need to stop giving away our royalties, buying into programs where we get royalties and no work. We need people working immediately. And all you need to do is look to the Equinor deal, and you'll see 5,000 metric tons basically equates into a flare boom, a helideck, 2 lifeboat stations. So put that in perspective for people, it's about 6 months work for about 85 people. That is not going to save this province on a multi-billion-dollar project. We paid $90 million to buy in, and we don't do any of the mechanical outfitting here. We have the ability, we've proven that we have the ability to do that. The other thing is the reality is that we are very overburdened right now with public servants. Now, I'm not by no stretch saying that we should cut public servants, but we have 44,000 public servants, which represents about 25% of our workforce, and we need to find a way to fix that.
Barry, to you to rebut.
It's difficult to know where to start when we're this far down, and we have been basically thinking we're going to balance our budget. The last 2 governments are basically saying that we are going to wait for oil revenues to be at a higher amount of money, and that's what's going to balance the budget. My background, of course, in small business is going to be small business oriented. It's going to be youth oriented. That's the people I want to see working, and I want to see the bureaucracy out of the way. I got lucky when I started my business in Claremont. There was a program called Self-Employment Assistance, and that we could extend unemployment to build our business, to build our skills at the time. That is, I know, a micro example, but I think that's the macro example that we're going to have to go with, because taxes haven't been working.
Both have 1 minute to debate.
Yeah, so no rebuttal to that. I kind of agree with Barry. But the other thing is our greatest resource here in Newfoundland is our people, and I think that's been long overlooked. If you look to the Terra district, in the centre we have a national park, and to the east of Claremont we have the Eastport Peninsula, Bonavista Peninsula, 3rd most visited place in Newfoundland. If you look to Glovertown, beautiful marina, same thing to the east, they have the Eastport Peninsula, beautiful. Then if you look to Grossmore and you superimpose a map of Terra Nova over that same district, and everywhere around Grossmore and that district is a destination. And I truly believe that Terra Nova should be the same. And I don't feel that we've gotten the treatment from government to get to that place, but I believe we have 85,000 people drive through Claremont every year to go to Trinity and Bonavista, and we may have sold 4 cups of coffee here last year. I think we got to find a way to change that.
And time is up. The next question will go to Barry Moores, and Lloyd Parrott will respond, and it will be asked by Yvette.
Many groups and businesses are continually encouraging the regional population to shop locally to ensure local businesses stay operating. What steps would you take to ensure that Claremont area businesses that supply products and services have opportunity to provide those goods and services to provincial government or crown corporations?
That's a really good question. One of the reasons, or the main reason that we started Natural Media here was to up the game for advertising and marketing materials for this whole region. And what had been done on the back of a napkin for generations, we brought up to speed here in 36 months. And we went from a mom and pop operation to 3rd largest printing concern in Newfoundland in basically 36 months, because there is a need and a demand for that there. People have the talent, they have the product to sell, they want to understand more about the process and the protocol. And well, when we got here, they had no marketing, promotional materials, or strategy and tactics that even resembled what was being done a couple of provinces to the west. So I'm thinking we always have to give our businesses more in regards to the materials that they have for promotions and for marketing, so they can differentiate themselves and stand out against their competition, which is why we set up our business here back in the day and saw a lot of success here. And I think that there's, with the expansion of commercial media, that there's definitely a place for businesses in this area to get stronger and make better sales that way.
And Mr. Parrott to respond.
I couldn't agree with Barry more, actually. The other thing we need to do is understand that we're better served by supporting local businesses, certainly based on the question from a government perspective. I know, when we do things, cost comes into play all the time. But again, no different than my comment on Equinor. What is posed and what government says, the reason they don't develop these things here is because of the cost. But it's so cost prohibitive because they don't do the groundwork. If they do the groundwork, they'll understand that, from the return of people working and everything else, it works out in the end. Just myself, when this campaign started, I went out and I made sure I printed all my signs here local. I got all my pamphlets done local. And it took extra time to do that. Now, I'm not so certain that all candidates in this election did the same thing, but I can tell you it delayed me by about 5 days, but I was happy enough to keep the business right here.
We actually did some of mine in the basement. We're actually spraying. We have to do Banksy things because my budget, I know, wasn't $100,000. It was my empties. So I got thank you Newfoundland Puffin for supplying 30, but we got some spray bombs and rolled our arms up and got dirty. And thank you.
And that's why Barry is awesome.
So we'll move on to question number 6. It will be asked to Lloyd Parrott, and Colin Holloway will respond, and Joe has the question.
The province changed the Animal Health and Protection Act in 2010 to provide better protection for animals. However, the new law took away some power of the SPCA to investigate cases of animal abuse, leaving an already strapped RNC, RCMP and municipal police to investigate and enforce. How will you advocate improving enforcement and animal protection in our province?
So I'll start by saying I'm the proud owner of 2 dogs, 2 cats, a parrot, and a bearded dragon. So we love animals, and I think that is very important to protect animals. You look at what happens in municipalities, there's a lot of them around that are left to do it on their own, and some of them, they pay the SPCA to do it, or some of them have municipal enforcement officers. I certainly know that the provincial veterinarians are overworked, and I know that some of the wildlife officers have taken on that role reluctantly, and they don't want to be doing it. I think that we need to have a real hard look at puppy mills and the types of things that are happening, and they're happening here in Newfoundland. There's animals being sold illegally. There's certainly a lot of abuse and things going on. The recent announcement of the cut in RCMP services probably isn't going to help that situation. We're responsible. We bring these animals into the world, and I think we have a responsibility as citizens to make sure that they don't get injured. So, government should take some responsibility and find a way to better enforce the law.
Thank you. And Mr. Holloway, you have 2 minutes to respond.
So I'm glad you asked this question, actually, because I've volunteered at SPCA now for about 15 years. When the change to the Animal Health Act took place, I was actually involved in that process and welcomed it. So would many of the volunteers at SPCA. In terms of them taking over and helping out with the investigation, that is a request that came from the SPCA, because they're a sophisticated organization that can actually do the investigations and bring it to court. We've had too many in the past where animals have been abused. We all know the stories, and it's really tugs on our hearts where people will be not taking great care of the animals, and there's nothing comes out of it in the court. So having the SPCA do the investigation, they understand, they can recognize it, and we change the act in consultation with them.
And 1 minute for debate.
I commend you for volunteering, Mr. Holloway, and I think the SPCA is an awesome group. I just think that there needs to be a lot of thought in certain situations before volunteers are put in situations where they could be dealing with people that are very unruly. And Therefore, law enforcement needs to be more involved.
We'll move on to question 7 then. It will be asked by Yvette. The question is directed to Mr. Parrott, and Mr. Morris will respond.
At the recent party leaders debate, it was referenced the number of jobs created by government over the last 4 years. If elected, how can voters expect you to advocate for full-time, high-paying employment in the district of Terra?
Yeah, so I think those numbers are a little misleading. In 2015, there was 239,200 full-time jobs. Currently today, we're looking at 225,300. So there's actually a reduction in people working. The reality of it is that we need to engage in a process where we can manufacture, fabricate, and look after our own resources. We need to expand our ability to have small business, like Mr. Moore's indicated, and we certainly need to find a way to attract companies to come here. You know, we just paid $19 million to Norway. It's no good to call it Equinor. Equinor is a state-owned company and is Norway. They would not allow anybody to come to their country and do what they're coming here to do. It's our resources, you know, and Bull Arm is out there right now. To my mind and my knowledge, the current Liberal government is trying to sign an MOU where Bull Arm will become an offshore oil and gas basin, which will eliminate the ability to fabricate anything in this area anymore. We've lost the shipyard here in Farnborough, and we've had the golf course closed down. Now, obviously, they've gone through a bankruptcy process, and hopefully once the sale has gone through, they reopen. But that is the record of the last 4 years here in this district. We need to find a way to get more people here working.
Mr. Morris?
Of course, I'm always going to come at this from the level of small business and education. So I'm thinking always ground level involvement. I think some of the best and most long-term things that we've had have come from the ground up. And I think that's how we have to get our resources together and turn these things around fast and get people working quickly. I mean, in regards to being a member of the Newfoundland-Labrador Alliance, what happens if you don't have political parties in the Assembly and it's all individuals, how fast it is to strike a members committee and actually get things done where we don't have to go through the machinations of the same franchise-style politics that we've had to deal with forever and a day.
And 1 minute to debate.
Yeah, and again, I agree with the approach on small business and it has to happen, but I will say, again, as I said earlier, economies are not driven by royalties. They are driven by people working, period. And if we don't have people working, we have big trouble.
But it does seem like, too, that both previous governments have been going to balance the books on how much oil is going to be worth in 2, 4, 5, 6 years' time. So which is why I kind of think that to keep the eyes on the prize locally while being savvy and having depth in international issues, basically I don't think we want to get leaned out too far with other people's business.
Totally agree. Like I said, our best resources are people.
That's time on that debate. We'll move on to question number 8 to Barry Moores, responder Colin Holloway, and Joe has the question.
The Clareville area, like many areas of the province, has seen a lot of crime, break-in enters and theft, amongst other things. What would your party do to support policing and crime prevention programs?
Well, this is, I have to be honest, this is not a question that I was anticipating receiving, as crime and punishment are not something that I think about very often, and I guess that's a bonus of living in an area like this, that it isn't something that I think about. So perhaps why do I not think about it, and it becomes an issue in other parts of the community and area? Well, of course, I'm always going to go back to the reality that you need opportunities for individuals. You need to have a higher tide which floats all boats. You need better education. You need to give people a reason not to be taking other people's stuff. You need to get to those core principles of the way that we should live to make something out of ourselves. And we need the support of roof over the head, food on the table, a caring society, and good education. And I think that in regards to making everybody's house as crime-free as mine, maybe, something like that, that's the way I think that the society starts.
And Mr. Holloway to respond.
Yeah, so I agree. We've seen some increases in criminal activity in this community and I guess parts of the district in the last number of years. Some of it's been because we've been into a boom cycle, in terms of a boom and bust and all the activity that's happening, economic activity. That is one of the negative consequences that happens from economic activity. Years ago, I was involved with the Youth Diversion Program. And I'm glad to see that there is a group here in Clarendon now that is working towards a restorative justice approach, recognizing that not every crime, there are some misdemeanor type stuff or lower scale stuff that's not necessarily criminal code, that the community can have an involvement with, as well as those who are victims of crime. That can certainly happen. We're also now, as you know, moving towards building a new penitentiary. We've announced that. So crime, justice is certainly paramount to what we talked about as a government. We're also bringing forward Clare's Law, so that people who are living with a spouse who is involved with violence and criminal activity, that information will be disclosed. So I think it's extremely important we make our communities as healthy as possible, and dealing with crime and break-ins is part of that strategy.
And we'll move to the 1 minute for debate.
I was very interested in what you said about restorative justice, and I think that's a lot that kind of fits into the initial ideas I had as well. That I think that getting the community involved from the beginning to the end is, we could do a lot worse.
We'll move on to question number 9. This question goes to Lloyd Parrott. Colin Holloway will respond, and Yvette has the question.
Most of us know all too well that tuition is not the only cost of post-secondary. Young people from rural areas are at a financial disadvantage because of the cost of living, rent, and other expenses associated with having to move to large centers for university and college. What would your party do or what would you advocate for to help rural students with the expenses associated with having to live away from home for post-secondary education?
That's a very good question. I grew up in Labrador and we've seen it all the time. Kids even for Christmas would have to fly out and do different things. Thanksgiving, when kids could drive home or just go across the street, they could do it. I think our tuition is very fair right now. Some post-secondary education here in the province is expensive. I don't know what the right approach is. I do agree that they are disadvantaged. I guess my approach, if I were to become MHA, would be certainly to talk to my constituents and understand what it is they expected and how we could fix it. There needs to be a lot of thought to go into that. I mean, it's no different than people with medical care. I think when you look at people who live outside of the greater St. John's area, they are disadvantaged when it comes to travel. Education is the key to our future, there's no question. And, a part of education is being able to function and communicate with your family and feel like you're part of that community. So part of that means going home. So I would certainly advocate for a way for those students to find ways to get home cheaper. I don't have an answer to what that is right now, but I would certainly commit to looking for that answer.
And rebuttal from Mr. Holloway.
Yep, so, the past number of budgets, we've certainly kept a tuition freeze in place for post-secondary students. As I've been out talking to some folks in the last number of days, one of the things I'm reminded by administrators, those in the post-secondary world, is that we've got some really good tuition rates compared to Atlantic Canada or elsewhere across the country. I will also say that I was a person who grew up in a rural community that had to go away from university and had to take 3 jobs in order to look after some of those expenses. I'm pleased to say that we do provide lots of opportunities for students in the summer to earn employment. And in my previous role, I was certainly pleased to be able to support young people, something I believe strongly in. I always say to young people when I go to graduations that if you're in a position to provide opportunity, then you should take it. And I've been fortunate in my life, and so I take that opportunity to provide, open those doors and provide those opportunities to other young people. And if that means that we can help them find employment, then I've certainly taken advantage and I've done that.
And we begin 1 minute of debate.
Yeah, and again, cost of living here in Newfoundland has skyrocketed, certainly over the last 4 years with the extra taxes and stuff. So, there has to be a lot of consideration given to students and the struggles that they have while they're trying to gain an education. And I certainly think that education is the key to most people's future and the future of this province, to be quite frank. So, at the end of the day, I think there is a solution out there. We just have to look really hard to find what that is. With the current system of one bus and the cost of flights here in Newfoundland, it's really bad. It's terrible. So, I think we need to try and lure some businesses in here that can provide better services, cheaper, lower gas. There's a lot of things that could happen for sure.
We'll move on to question 10, asked by Joe. Barry Moores will answer and Lloyd will respond.
Currently, children with autism and their families in this region have very little supports beyond the school system. For high-functioning autistic children especially, there is very little in terms of after-school programs to provide them with specialized tutoring to help them with the core subjects of math, English, and science. And within the school system, children with autism lose their one-on-one in-class student assistant after grade 4. Can you tell us what you will propose to ensure children with autism and their families are getting the supports they need in education to ensure they are able to learn and develop to their full potential in the school system and beyond?
First people I always turn to with that would be parents of autistic children, and I'm fortunate enough to have Paul and Benson and Tilley as good friends of mine. And because I am neither a parent or the guardian of a disabled child, and I have a disability myself, I would find the smartest move would be to consult with these individuals and to see what their ideas are. And as a representative for Terra, that's what I would want to do. I would find it rather presumptive, given the large amount of funding as well that I think was just allocated in the budget for an autism program, I think just before the election call, if I'm not incorrect there. So I would also like to see what that is. Now, of course, if the incumbent party wins, then they say the budget's going through. But if they don't, and the BCs win, then where does that leave that promised autism money that we heard about? So that would be my big concern when it comes to overall funding. And again, when it comes to how this type of money is managed and what for, I really want to talk to Paul and Mila first.
And Lloyd, 2 minutes to respond.
Yeah, so, I guess anybody who knows me knows I'm a pretty big advocate for people with disabilities, not just autism, but any disability. And I think that there's been some pretty big mistakes made over the last few years, with the School for the Deaf and certainly with the autistic children. I've had the opportunity to talk to the Autism Society here in Claremont recently, and I think when you look at what the last budget brought down, and I don't think that it was a bad attempt, but it doesn't go far enough. Every child in Newfoundland deserves an equal opportunity, regardless of where they live or what their ailment is, and that is an autistic child or a deaf child or a child in a wheelchair. Accessibility issues, sight issues. The kids are our future, and they all deserve an equal opportunity, and I would be a very strong advocate for that. No backdoor whatsoever. I would fight tooth and nail.
And again, 1 minute to debate.
Yeah, I like the idea of a disability act of some sort as well, as has been proposed before, as a kind of larger, overarching way that communities and individuals can collaborate.
I agree, and education is pretty key. A lot of parents out there that have kids with disabilities certainly don't understand the programs available. The funds aren't necessarily available for kids in smaller communities. And it's okay to say that you're going to have workers with these kids, but if you take rural communities, where are you going to get the workers? They're just not there. The skill set is not there. The current plan doesn't go far enough.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. Colin Holloway will answer and Barry Morris will respond, and Yvette has the question.
Childcare. For many families with young children, the stress of juggling work and children is compounded by the fact that there are very few publicly funded childcare services available, and the cost of childcare can chew up a significant amount of a family's disposable income. What would you propose as a solution to help families access affordable and reliable childcare services?
I agree with you that providing access to affordable childcare is an important issue, especially in today's environment where both parents are working. What we've seen building in the last year is that we've provided an additional 1,000 affordable childcare spaces, across this province. We're again saying in this budget that we're going to allocate $60 million for early childhood development. For me personally, and it was read in my bio, I was involved with the establishment of the Family Resource Centre. And during that time, we did look at publicly funded childcare spaces. Unfortunately, at that time, the previous administration did not share the same vision, and it didn't happen in this community. We have seen recently, though, in terms of the childcare centre that's down in Shoal Harbour, that they also just received some additional funds to upgrade some of their facilities, and we're doing that with a number of facilities across this province. So providing that access to childcare spaces by providing subsidies to families is important. And it's one thing to talk about that you're going to guarantee a certain amount that parents will pay to have childcare. But if there's no comment about how that accessibility is going to take place, I think you're dead in the water. So we've taken it as a paramount issue for us. And it's something I'm keenly interested in and very much behind because of the things I've done in the past.
And Mr. Morris, your response?
What I find interesting is maybe being able to bring other forces into this in a more of a cooperative fashion. If we had some more support for cooperatives, into cooperative structure, and I'd see a lot of solutions there for increased efficiency in delivery of daycare for rural areas. I think that I was involved in the Smart Communities contest here in the late 90s, and we were able to bring everybody together to kind of tackle that, and in the next step was able to take the work that we've done and actually build some type of real structure that addressed what was going on a day-to-day basis. So I really like to kind of see the daycare issue opened up more by more parents, by more people in the discussion, and using other business structures in regards to make daycare a more robust style of process that thinks outside the lines a little bit. We're at a position with what we know about how things are done around the world, that maybe we can start riffing up some other countries that do this real well.
And the 1 minute for debate begins now.
The only thing I'd say about that is when parents drop off their kids in the morning, they want to make sure the kids are, they're given a nutritious meal, that the kids are safe, that the door is not left open and kids are walking in the street. And so there is a certain amount of regulation that happens with that. We do have examples here where, parents stay at home, are taking in kids. We also have to keep an eye on to make sure that those children are safe, so that when parents cut off work, that those kids are there for them to pick up at the end of the day, and we don't have any tragedies. So the government has a role to make sure that the regulation is in place, but what's the most important part is that kids are learning how to play safely, that they're getting a good, healthy diet, and that they are safe in the environments that we leave them in when we give them to a different care provider.
And let's find a way to get some more spaces. Let's kind of think outside the box and find out ways that we can take the pressure off.
And time is up on that debate. We'll move on to question 12, asked by Joe. The answer will go to Colin Holloway, and Barry Morris again will respond.
The idea of regional government or a county system has been part of the ongoing debate in this province for quite a while, with some municipal leaders advocating for and others adamantly opposed. Do you support the idea of regional governance? Why or why not?
I think there's many facets when you talk about regional government, regional governance, and there are some differences between them. I actually did some studies on this a number of years ago. We're seeing right now that there are a number of communities in this area that are exploring that opportunity. Regional government works when there is an ability to share services. So if you think about if there's water and sewer, that can be shared amongst communities, fire protection, land use planning, those are some of the things that come to the forefront. Snow clearing, we know that's happening, being explored on the Eastport Peninsula, where the communities that are close in proximity are pooling their resources. So there's a reduced cost to residents in an area when they can bring in a service that all the residents can utilize. So I'm in favor of that. There's an aspect of regional government that I don't think that I'm overly in favor of, and that is if there is not equal representation. So I would say that if you're going to do that, then all communities and all residents in those communities need to have an equal voice in a regional government model.
And Barry, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Yeah, we were at the sessions together, I think, a little while back.
Yes.
And there was some fascinating things thrown around there. I've had the opportunity to spend some time in Nova Scotia when I was younger, and very impressed by their county system. We were fighting like cats and dogs here, and they had a county system in 1749, I do believe. What I like about a county system is it gives more clout to a small town. That's how I would like to see it organized. Again, got to be, I agree with that, has to be equal representation. But I think that the county system, regionalization, can be viewed as a way to make us more powerful and to give small towns more clout. Again, as was said, you don't want to have it ended up so the town at the end of the line is the last one every single time to be getting their roads plowed. But it is I think it's a powerful way to speed things up, to get more people in the system, and to get more people talking. I mean, time is tight, and we really need to get together to come up with these solutions. I know people have the ideas, people have the competencies, and I think some type of regionalization where we can get together and give us some more clout. I think we've got to do it.
And we'll open it up for 1 minute of debate.
Yeah, I think Barry, you and I are talking the same language. We did attend that same session that was at the College North Atlantic here. A lot of the impetus for pushing for a regional government is communities, municipalities have been wanting a fair tax, and they'd like to see that other communities are contributing equally and residents of those communities are contributing equally. What I see is that there are services that I think all communities have in common, and I think that there are some savings that can be afforded if those communities work together in a collaborative manner and to gain those services, especially if they're unincorporated areas that need to have, say, a water specialist, like we're seeing just east of here, and so they can pool their resources, get that expertise, and they have safe drinking water. So there are benefits from having a regional government approach.
Thank you. That ends the question and debate portion of the evening. And we'll move on now to concluding remarks from each of the candidates, and again by random draw. The first candidate, with 3 minutes to present, is Mr. Moores.
So I'm first to be last. Thanks, man. Also, I'd like to say thank you for the Chamber for inviting me to the debate and everybody that came out. Thanks for coming out. Mr. Holloway, thank you so much. It's been good. It's been a definitely good interchange of ideas. Newfoundland and Labrador has 500,000 citizens. A small city. A full-scale political party system has been a surefire recipe for abuse. We have 40 members for 500,000 citizens. There's no reason why 40 independents cannot make better decisions for this province than a political party system that really goes back hundreds of years. It is not the direction of the future. We have to use the staff we have with a small business. Tough decisions can't be made on the front lines. They have to be made in management, where we have a 10% overcapacity in management in the public service now, was 20%, I do believe, in the 2016 budget document. We have watched as those uncomfortably close to government receive contracts without appropriate processes. A cannabis debacle that could have been avoided, $40 million tax break that nobody really understands, the scene we calls the Judy foot fetish. And now are we suddenly rolling in money from a deal that works out to be 40-odd cents a day per person over 38 years, that is the new Atlantic Accord. Without the front-loaded accounting magic on the budget, we're running a $500 million deficit, and our GDP down 2.7%. The overwhelming feeling of the disabled, the marginalized, the low income, our seniors, is the system is not here for us. When Eastern Health clawed back more of my support a while ago, I managed to get through to the Premier. He said, and I thought this interesting, the members are so busy they don't know the stories of people like you. Well, I don't believe in the logic of ignorance, because look at my resume, old man. And he did nothing to help. Or anyone else at the level of the health system or government, and don't get me started on that in the extra. I can take it. I can take it even if it gets worse in my life, because I'm tough and I have no dependents. But it makes my blood run cold is people that can't fight back. Senior citizens, working families with disabled children, people on working disability, veterans. I read the packet in 2004 when everyone came out and said, don't amalgamate the health boards. I asked Debbie Forward on the CBC forum there, is it any better or any worse since amalgamation? And she said to me, depends on who you ask and what day of the week. And that's not good enough, man. That's not good enough for me. That's not good enough for the old man. That's not good enough for mother. Okay, when they come to this town, there was 2 cars there. 2 cars in this town.
Time to conclude.
My background in journalism, education, Newfoundland history makes me a good choice for this.
Time is up.
Thank you.
The second candidate for closing remarks, again in order of random draw, Lloyd Parrott.
Thanks, Barrett. Good job. It's my belief that the future of this district and our province hangs in the balance. There are tough decisions ahead, and they're going to affect us all. Political figures in the past have made promises only to be elected and quickly change the whole agenda. Those who know me fully understand the adversity I have faced. They know that I'm a person who runs towards a burning house, not away from it. I will not be bullied, and I am not a bully. Politics is not going to change me. Over the last 4 years, we've seen a myriad of broken promises. We've seen MHAs take credit for things they have not done. And similarly, we've seen them walk away from responsibility when they have erred. It's time for us to hold our political representatives accountable. It's time to have representation for this district and this province that we deserve. There's no longer a left and right in politics. There's only a right and wrong. On May the 16th, I ask that you do what is right and vote for Lloyd Parrott.
Final
First, I'd like to extend my appreciation to the Clarendon Area Chamber of Commerce for hosting tonight's candidates debate. I'd also like to extend my thanks to each of you who've taken time out of your busy schedules to come along and to listen to what each of us has to say. I've been in the position for 3.5 years, and one of the things I committed to doing in November 2015 was that I would be open and honest and accessible. The one thing you would always get from me is the truth. I have held to that standard. I am very accessible. People tell me they're very surprised that they get a response from me as quick as they do. I commit to being accessible in the next 4 years. I also committed in 2015 to working as hard as I can on your behalf. The office that I had here in Clarendon, we saw a lot of people. We were very, very busy. People came looking for support when they couldn't find support anywhere else. And I pride myself in that. I am somebody that listens carefully, tries to understand what your need is, and I always ask people, what is it that you want me to do for you? We've had a tremendous amount of success in this district, and it's because I've been able to work with some great communities, community groups, municipalities, and I look forward to continuing that great partnership in the next 4 years. So on the 16th, I hope you mark next from me. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the Chamber of Commerce candidates debate for this election. And on behalf of the Chamber, I'd like to thank the candidates for participating. I'd also like to thank those who took the time to come out here tonight to witness this debate. In closing, I want to remind you all that, of course, Election Day is May 16th. And a reminder that in a world where too many people do not get the opportunity to choose the people who will lead them in government, the right to vote is a very basic and important right. We encourage you to consider all the issues, to contemplate your choices, and above all, exercise your democratic right. There is power in numbers. Please get out and vote.
Better get a picture. It's your job.
Yeah. All right.